Let's talk about how good grammar makes better writers. In their coverage of the June 2021 collapse of a condo north of Miami, CNN had the following headline: "New photos show damage taken 36 hours before collapse." Can you tell what's wrong with that headline? I'll say it again. New photos show damage taken 36 hours before collapse. Now I'll say it this way. New photos taken 36 hours before collapse show damage. CNN's writers are churning out headlines 24/7. But an error is still an error. The above example points out that a good writer doesn't only care about what words to use, but about their placement. The CNN title uses what's called a misplaced modifier. The word taken by its placement modifies damage. That makes no sense. In the revised version, taken modifies photos. This version states the three facts about the photos in a logical and grammatically correct order. They are new or newly relevant. They were taken 36 hours before the collapse of the building, and they show damage. Not only does this revision make sense, it puts the most important detail at the end of the sentence, which is something called the power spot. Because it's the last part of the sentence, the reader remembers it best. The revised headline says, "The photos show prior damage." It raises the question of why no one in charge noticed. Could anyone have prevented the deaths and the injuries? I suspect that smooth grammatical prose doesn't rank high in the priorities of news sites. As I noted earlier, they focus on getting the news published as quickly as possible. They want scoops. They want breaking news. Some stories may last for several days, but before long, they disappear into the archives. If you write a book, it's going to have a much longer shelf life, whether physical or digital. That's why you need to pay much more attention to grammar. Good grammar makes good writers. In simple terms, grammar is an umbrella term that refers to the rules of spoken and written language. When we speak and write using correct grammar, other people can more easily understand us. We build a bridge over which our thoughts travel accurately to the person who reads them or hears them. This matters because grammatical errors have the opposite effect. They lead to misunderstandings and broken communication bridges. When people don't understand each other, they can end up fighting because they misinterpret what the other is saying. I know you can think of situations when this happened to you. Whole marriages and friendships can fall apart due to miscommunication. Good writers write good titles. Titles are important. If you regularly write email newsletters or blogs, you need to have finely tuned skills. Every word counts, and when you write a poorly written headline, you risk the recipient not opening your email or newsletter or blog post. The choice of a title becomes even more important when you choose one for your book. You have to come up with one that attracts attention. These might be the most important 4 or 6 words you write, and more if you have a subtitle. Every word will count, so the more you know about words, the better. Start now reading headlines, titles, and especially book titles. Hard as this may be to believe, I have seen typos and other errors in book titles. I've also seen how one disastrous typographical choice made the word luck read like a word that rhymes with it. You don't want to make that mistake with your book title. How much do you want to become a better writer? Here's where, as the cliche goes, the pedal hits the metal. It takes work and time to learn the mechanics of good grammar. And you can't become a better writer without those skills. It's true that people aren't going to read every word of what you write with the attention they give to headlines and titles. That doesn't mean you can neglect the other sentences that you write. If you misplace a modifier in your text, they may not notice it, but a voice in the back of their head might be whispering, "Something's wrong." You never want your reader to hear that voice. You don't want them to stop so that they can think about the sentence that doesn't make sense. You don't want them to have to reread it to figure it out. Readers don't like to do that. They want to get involved and even get lost in your work. They want to know what's coming next. They want to read with enjoyment to the end. They get annoyed at anything that prevents them from doing that. And they get annoyed with anyone. That means you, the author. But you say, it's too much work. Is that what you're thinking? You might be objecting right now about this, saying, but checking every sentence takes too much time. I'm writing, or I'm going to be writing, thousands of words. Yes, and that's going to take time. If you don't take the additional time to check what you've written is grammatically correct, you won't receive the benefit of the time you've spent writing those thousands of words. More importantly, when you write and publish a book, you make a promise to the reader that you will give them the most enjoyable possible reading experience. It's up to you to keep that promise. Maybe you're thinking, I can't learn how to do all this. I can hire an editor to do all this. You certainly can. And I recommend hiring at least one. Editors are expert professionals and they charge accordingly. Here's how you can cut down on your costs. I'm sharing this tip as an editor. An editor will usually ask for a sample of your work. This will help her determine how much editing she needs to do. She'll base the estimate for whatever level of editing she's doing on how long she thinks it will take. You have the power to reduce your financial investment by writing and editing your manuscript so that it's the best that it can possibly be before you hire an editor. Besides the obvious cost of repairing grammatical errors, you also incur a less obvious cost. My handyman says interventions lead to interventions. In repair terms, this means that fixing one thing may create a need to repair something else because you've altered the structure of an object. In editing, a revision may create a need for another revision or an inadvertent error. Finally, how much time it takes for you to write in a grammatically correct way is entirely up to you. If you invest time in learning basic communication skills, you will use them correctly without thinking about them. I can attest to this from personal experience. At a certain stage in my writing career, I realized I had forgotten some of the basic rules about commas. I had to look up these rules frequently. Finally, I realized how much time this was taking, and I took a different approach. I found a good site that explained with examples the rules for common comma usage. And I read each thoroughly, and I did practice exercises. The time I dedicated to this study has saved me countless hours. More importantly, it saved me from having to interrupt the creative flow to ask myself, does a comma go here? When you feel grounded in grammatical principles, you build a foundation that will give you confidence in your writing. You will become a better writer. Be sure to subscribe to this channel so that you get more tips on writing.